Alright, hello, it's Out. I'm going to be talking about the Underpin fight, as I did previously with Zekvir. Now, I did this much later into the tier than I did Zekvir, which I did 3 or 4 weeks in, I think. So the item level is quite different. I was just like barely bringing it to Rook item level when I did Zekvir the first time, and now I'm like fully mythic geared for the Underpin, so keep that in mind when watching this video. I am much higher than I was previously, or when I did my other video. Anyways, there's a few things. I'll save my actual opinions on Underpin versus Zekvir and all that for the end, so if you want to listen to that, I'll get pretty quickly into the important stuff. First of all, talents. I ran pretty much just the single target stuff. There's nothing specifically you need for this fight like Zekvir, so it's just going to be single target talents. With one of the talents near the bottom of the Arcane tree moved into high voltage, and that is because there is a lot of movement on this fight, and I figured that there's a very little room for me to just turreting Arcane Blast. So I wanted to be able to build up Arcane charges outside of Arcane Blast, of course. But that's the only thing. The class counts, I would say, almost doesn't matter. For the actual kill, I forgot to move Supernova out of, or get rid of Supernova, I should say. And normally you would have that in the mirror image talent, I guess. It doesn't really matter, honestly. I never felt danger like in Zekvir that my health was like bouncing a bit down. I honestly completely forgot about Brand's health potions at some point. The only time I was ever in danger is that I got hit by a line like once in this fight. This only took me 5 pulls. Technically on my mage, I did try 4 times on the Brewmaster just to see if I could do it on that. But it is basically just delved geared, and it didn't have the DPS to go through the barrier. Anyways, I'm gonna talk through the fight. It's only 5 minutes. I've never done this before, and it might suck. So, let's begin. Alright. First we're gonna start. I'm gonna use cooldowns on pool, but you don't have to if your cooldowns are a bit longer. It's much more important to use your cooldowns on the shields and stuff. First you bring the boss over to this side. Well, not necessarily this side, but to a side of the room. When he spawns the ad, he spawns them in a line. The ads cannot spawn in the same location as the other ads. So, all you're simply doing is killing the ads there and then rotating them around the room. It doesn't really matter which side you start on or which way you rotate around the room, as long as you're not putting ads across different sides of the room. I'm picking up these healing potions, but honestly, at some point in the fight, I stopped caring. There really isn't all that much damage to you as Zekvir was, especially with barrier, most of it, and we'll go through barrier. Other classes, you might have to pick up a potion every now and again, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Most of the times, you do not want to do that with the bombs. You just want to pick up whatever bombs are nearby, kick them towards the end, kick them away from you, but you should not be trying to go for every single bomb, because that's just going to waste your time. And having a couple ads up for a little bit is perfectly fine. You have a lot of time to actually kill any of the ads. So next set of ads is going to spawn shortly. Even though these swirlies give you a lot of time, although They're the old swirlies, which is kind of annoying that they never updated them. Now I didn't perfectly put these in the, next to the previous ones. I probably should have. Would have made this a little bit easier. You'll see in a second. If there's one tip, then maybe don't have them spawn in that middle area where they are right now. Again, you'll see in a second. I panic here, to try to get the shield down. I could have evoed an Arcane Surge and killed this immediately, but I messed that up. So I missed an Arcane Surge, which is quite a bit of damage, and this is what I mean by the bombs. That area prevents the bombs from going the full distance, not metaphorically, but literally, and makes it really annoying to kill these two sets of ads. Again, the ads being up for a little bit, not the hugest deal, but that may tilt you occasionally. I guess I am accidentally picking up some potions. I do get hit by a line here, I believe, because I fucked myself up. But I live through a line. You can live through a line. See, I'm doing the normal on-pull rotation, and I still have plenty of time to kill the shield. Try not to pay attention to doing your rotation perfectly. It's much more important that you dodge the things when you need to. The bombs will at least hit 3. A bomb that hits a robot will hit 1, and then the ones to the left and right of it. So you can very easily kill a few of them at the same time. Again, he jumped away, so I decided just to kick a bomb instead of chasing him. The shield again. Kick that bomb over because it was next to me and it was going to explode. The next one spawning. And then I believe this is where I decided the next time my cooldowns come up, I'm going to lust. A smarter person would have waited it until the next shield. But I still have lust going, and so I was able to get the shield down anyways. But you should probably wait until the shield and then lust. I should probably not have been trying to hit these bombs and just been turreting. But for some reason I decided to do that, even when I don't need to. Here's him going the bombs. I still have lust, so I can get through this pretty easily. Well, maybe not easily, but it's very doable. And then I kill him here. And my heart was racing. I was really panicking near the end because I wasn't expecting to just suddenly end up with a kill. But that is the fight. I hope that was at least somewhat helpful. Now, the Underpin versus Zekvir. I want to say the Underpin is easier than Zekvir, but that is mostly because Zekvir was a health sponge. When I first did the fight, it took 8 minutes. I might have let him heal on it. I can't quite remember now, but it took very long for the only few mechanics he has. Underpin feels much better. He's in a much better spot to, compared to DPS and how big the shield is and everything like that. But I would say he's designed possibly worse. There's a lot of things that there's a lot of things in the fight that are just flat out annoying. Immediately you're wow, this fucking sucks immediately. All the swirlies of the time, they give you a lot of time to move out of them, which was a problem in Zekvir, that you really didn't have much time to move out of any of the Zekvir things. But in this fight, it almost feels like you have too much time, and almost none of them really matter if you move out of them all that soon, which isn't like explicitly a problem, but it does make this fight very, very lenient for what you can do and not do. That being said, Underpin, in the very least, is not in a small, crowded room, but the bombs, the floor of the arena in the room is not even. So there is some spots in the arena that you will kick the bomb and get stopped immediately, or it will not go as far as it should. I am sure I've already went through this over, but it's very, very annoying if you want to get rid of the ads. You want to get rid of them before the next shield. You want to go back to DPSing them. But there's parts of this fight that get in the way. Now, I didn't pull this fight all that much, so I don't know what bad RNG necessarily looks like. So what I mean is, I've read comments about like Bran screwing them over by being too far away from the Underpin, but I don't know what difference that would make, because where the boss is didn't seem like it mattered. I assume it probably matters to the flamethrower like Zekvir did, but I don't know. But I don't know if that would really matter, because you have all the time in the world for the bombs. So I would just prioritize dodging the flamethrower first, and then dealing with the bombs. Like, I've noticed recently that Bran just runs away sometimes. There's the last boss in Nightfall Sanctum where he just doesn't board the ship with you, and he will continuously reset the boss. So I can see how maybe he would mess you up in some way, but honestly, I don't think he matters all that much if you DPS. If you were a healer, I'm sure it would matter more, because Bran is like all your DPS, and depending on what tank you would be, I'm sure that would matter more too. I guess in that sense it's better that you don't have to fully rely on Bran, but there's still parts that are super RNG for both of these fights that definitely sucks. Like, the ideas of Underpinned is much, much better than Zekvir. Zekvir was really boring, and this is much more grand. The other thing is that you have to kind of fiddle with the interact button possibly, and actual aiming of the bombs is kind of annoying. If the bombs just, automatically went to a nearby ad if you kick them in the general vicinity, or if they, auto-targeted on an ad for you or something like that, that would be much better. So I want to say Underpin in general is a much better fight and is easier, but I'm not quite sure because I did them at wildly different item levels. So it's very possible I would have been more annoyed with Underpin than I would with Zekvir. But I'm obviously missing that context. So in generally speaking, I think I like Underpin more, despite all the bad stuff in it, because I found Zekvir to be both boring and shitty. Alright, thank you. Goodbye.